Okay, good evening, everyone. We are now broadcasting live. Hello. Thank you. Good evening. My name's Todd Frederick. I'm the Select Board Chair here in York, and I was asked by our candidates committee to be the sort of do an intro to why we're here tonight, and I think we all know that. We are broadcasting live, and will also be recorded. You can watch it on Town Hall Streams or on YouTube. Both platforms are on the Town of York website. So good evening and welcome to the Candidates Night here at the York Public Library Community Room on Friday, April 10th, 2026. This is a tremendous opportunity to hear from all the folks that have stepped forward to serve on the various open elected positions this cycle in our town. So we're going to hear from those candidates tonight that are running for Budget Committee, School Committee, Water and Sewer District, Select Board, and our Town Moderator. This, as I mentioned earlier, this night is sponsored by the Town of York Select Board Committee on Candidates Night that was created, I think probably 4 or 5 years ago. The Select Board saw that there was a need to have a gathering like this because it had just sort of gone away for a time being. So it was brought back, members were appointed, and they've sort of been, some have moved on and some have replaced those folks. But the three that really helped coordinate and pull together this evening are Jim Smith, Matt Murray, and Aaron McGann. I believe they're all sitting in the back of the room, and you may have spoke with some of them on the way in, so a little round of applause for them. So we have all the candidates here for the Water District, is Russ Peterson, looking to be reelected to the Water District. Select Board is Marla W. Johnson and Robert Palmer. We have School Committee where there's 2 write-in candidates for 1 open seat, Shaud Bradburn and Michael Modern. And then on the Budget Committee, there's 2 open seats with 3 folks running, Tom Hedger, Courtney Munoz, and Amanda Sedgwick. And our moderator, Elizabeth Bardwell, is also seeking re-election, cannot be with us tonight, as well as Barry Davis, who's running for the Sewer District. He cannot be with us tonight. He has pneumonia, recovering from said pneumonia. So we wish all of them the best. Great turnout here in the audience. It's great to see that folks want to hear what our candidates have to say and why they believe it's important that you elect them to serve the position for which they're seeking. So thank you for coming, and for all the folks that are watching at home, and I'm sure there are many doing that. We also have York Weekly staff here. We have Pat Cronin, who's the editor of York Weekly, and our local reporter that many of us have spoken to, Max Sullivan. They're both sitting up on the front. They have a series of questions, and they'll be asking the candidates a range of those questions very shortly. 2 other people I'd like to thank, and on behalf of the committee as well, is Lynn Osgood, our town clerk. She helped coordinate a lot of the activities with the 3 folks I mentioned earlier. Helped with coordinating the signs, getting those out and about town, as well as publicizing our event. And then Diana Genados, in the town manager's office, with organizing the room and in the booth and other logistical support. And again, thank you to the library for allowing us to use this space this evening for our Candidates Night Forum. So enough from me. I'm going to pass it off to Pat Cronin from the York Weekly, and then Pat will take it from there and call various candidates up to the front to answer questions. Thank you.
Yep. Welcome to the York Candidates Forum. Tonight we'll hear from the candidates running for Water District Trustee, Select Board, School Committee, and Budget Committee. Before we begin, here are the ground rules that all candidates have agreed to. Each candidate will have 1-minute opening statement to share why they are running for town office. After introductions, we'll move into the question and answer portion. Each candidate will have up to 90 seconds to respond to each question. We will also include a speed round, short answer questions for the Select Board, School Committee, and the Budget Committee candidates. Finally, each candidate will conclude with a 1-minute closing statement. To stay on schedule, Max Sullivan will serve as our timekeeper, and he will signal when candidates have 15 seconds remaining. We'll start with the first uncontested race, which is for Water District Trustee. So we'd like to invite Russ up to the podium.
Hold your applause.
And Russ, we would like to give you your 1-minute opening statement.
Board service is the way that I have given back to my community for many years. I have a strong background in finance, and I have lived in town for 42 years. That's not quite right. I moved here 42 years ago. I had a 2-year run in Elliott, but I live here and have for a long time. It's interesting that you don't think much about your water, but I can tell you in serving on the board that there are serious issues about sustainability that we need to address. And I have no idea how long I've been speaking, but I can stop.
So we have 2 questions. First question is, what experience do you bring to the York Water District, and how would you guide the district in balancing long-term infrastructure needs with affordability for ratepayers?
Well, I was the CFO at York Hospital for 11 years. I've had my own business in town for more than 20 years as an investment advisor. I have an MBA, and I know about finance.
Given York has experienced back-to-back years of a drought, what proactive steps should the water district take to protect the resources like Chase's Pond?
Well, many of you may be aware already that recently we've announced a plan for watering lawns. It is fascinating to me to learn about how much water is taken by those who water their lawn. And the trend is that there's simply been more of that. When there is a new development, oftentimes there is a requirement to water lawns. We think that watering lawns is one way to preserve access to drinking water. If you think about it, using treated drinking water to water a lawn doesn't make a lot of sense. But that's the way it's been for a long time.
We'd like to give you a minute closing statement.
I'm Russ Peterson. For those of you who don't know me, I live off of Route 1 on Mill Ridge Farm Lane. I have served in this community the entire time I've been here in one way or another, as president of the Chamber of Commerce, for example, board member of the Historical Society. Having had a business in town for a long time, I have gained a fair bit of respect for how things work in the town of York, but I'm not a political animal. I just observe and try to understand. Thank you. Anything else you'd like?
Thank you. We would now like to invite the 2 candidates running for Select Board, Marla Johnson and Robert Palmer.
Where would you like us to?
Right up there.
Should we take our customers? Yeah.
There you go.
Want to hear it?
Yeah.
So we'll start with opening statements, and we'll start first with Robert.
Okay. Things are right in my face. Good evening, everybody. My name's Robert Palmer, as it says on the sign. I'm running for the Select Board. I want to thank everybody for the people who made this all happen for this evening. I have my family has lived in York for 22 plus years. Our children, Sarah and Taylor, went through the York schools. The skills I think I bring to the table are I'm a numbers guy. I like to analyze things and problem solve. I also bring a sense of humor, which sometimes is helpful. I'm looking forward to the next 3 years. Please come out and vote May 16th. As usual, the ballot
That's it,
is...
Robert. Sorry, that was it.
That's it?
We'll get 60 seconds, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, vote. Absentee.
And now the floor is yours, Marla.
Thank you, Patrick. I want to thank the committee, Jim and Aaron and Matt for organizing this. It's a lot of work, and for our friends at the York Weekly as well. A wise person who's sitting in the audience said to me earlier today, Marla, just speak from the heart. And so I'll do that very briefly. 3 years ago, I started by speaking about my paternal ancestor, Peter Weir, who came to York in 1643. He served as the town clerk, and he served as a selectman. And so it's really an honor for me to serve our town as a select board member 350 years later. This, I think, is a time of stress and tension with regards to government, particularly nationally. But I hope that here in York, in this special town that we all love, that we can work together for the greater good and always try our best to do that. We may not always agree on everything. Even Robert and I don't agree on everything. And that's okay. And that makes for a healthy community. And I would just like to say that I try consistently to listen, just participate, lots of meetings. I try to ask thoughtful questions, explain my position in all of the issues that we opine on, and most of all, to exercise good judgment, because we don't know what issues are going to come up for the next 3 years. And it's an honor to serve. Appreciate your support, and vote.
So we'll first start out with a couple of questions, and each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond. The first question goes to Robert. Robert, what approach do you support for consolidating York schools buildings, and what level of investment do you believe is appropriate?
So I appreciate what the schools are trying to do, and they've recognized that the school population has gone down and will sort of continue to go down until it gets to a certain point. And they see within that they need to, control their operating costs. Part of that is personnel, but also part of that is, the number of buildings they have and maintenance. So I appreciate what they are trying to do. I'm not sure what the number is. I know that what happened this year is that they came forward with a capital plan of $4.5 million in January, and then in late February to the Budget Committee, they came forward with a $27 million plan. And that increase of $23 million was a lot, and I think it came back late. And so it was truly hard for us to evaluate those projects. It was hard to evaluate time goes by fast. Evaluate the costs, and frankly, at that point, I thought it was unfair to the York voters to vote in on something that was not fully vetted. I guess I'm done. I got to talk faster.
We're not used to it. Even in public comment, there's a 3-minute limit.
And the same question.
Could you repeat the question?
Yep. So what approach do you support for consolidating York schools buildings, and what level of investment do you believe is appropriate?
Well, first of all, to the second half, I don't have a number in mind. I think the number needs to come out of the work that has been done for the last year and which will continue to be done. In terms of approach, I think it needs to be both consolidation of buildings to fewer buildings. I think it's obvious that with fewer students, we need fewer buildings, and that can also enhance educational opportunities. But it needs to be the physical part of it as well as the educational part of it. And I think one of the challenges that Robert alluded to that we didn't see coming late into the budget process was a comprehensive plan that addressed all of those things, addressed the educational part of it, as well as the cost part, as well as the physical building part of it. And so what I'm really looking forward to this year is continued work on a collaborative basis to come up with a very holistic plan. And I also read in the papers that there are a lot of communities having these same discussions and facing these same challenges statewide. So we're not alone. It's a lot of hard work. Projects take a long time, which can be frustrating. 15 seconds. Our town hall took a couple hundred years to renovate and a number of tries. And that can be frustrating, but it's, I think it's worth the additional work that will be put in this year.
Okay. This question is for Marla. How will you address the concerns of longtime York residents who feel rising costs are making it harder to remain in the community they call home?
That's a tough one.
Oh, one moment, sorry, this is an issue, I'm gonna use.
See, you're getting more time.
All right, go ahead, here you go.
Go? Oh, it's still a tough one. I think rising costs are a factor for everyone in this town, in every town. People who have been here a short time, people who have been here a long time. Taxes are going up for everyone, and the cost of living is going up for everyone. And I don't have any magic answers, but I think being aware and being front of mind when we do discuss issues that come to the select board is important, and believe me, it is front of mind for all of us. So I just think working together, being sensitive, separating needs from wants, that seems to be a theme this year. If it's a matter of really, there's no magic bullet, but we're all in it together, and we all need to work on it together.
And same question?
Yeah, so I sort of agree with Marla. I mean, it's a difficult question that every community, certainly in Maine, but maybe in this country, is facing the rising costs of doing things. And I don't think there's any magic bullet. I do think that, as Marla said, looking at needs and wants is important. As we look at capital items, I think that's important. Sometimes you can get seduced in capital items because it doesn't impact you that year. But capital items are important. Things like fire trucks and plow trucks have gone up 50, 60, 70%. It's a real challenge. I do think that, as well for the schools, I think collaboration is one key. We need to have towns that collaborate more. We all have the same issues. So finding a way that perhaps we can share the expense of some of those more costly items, I think is a way forward that we could look at. And then we need to be as efficient as we possibly can. I mean, yeah, I wish I had better answers. Yeah, thank you.
This question is for Robert. What is your vision for York Village, Short Sands, and other key commercial areas over the next decade?
Well, and I get a minute and a half, right? What is my vision? Well, I think from a town perspective, what we can do are zoning issues, as we've done in the beach and the village. We create zoning that hopefully incents people to do what you want to have happen. In the beach, in the village, we have high density zoning that allows high density. We're trying to do a York Village revitalization project, which we hoped, because it created wider sidewalks and trees and parks, that it would attract retail, because I think we don't have as much retail in the village as we once did. I mean, it won't be the same, but It would be nice to have that. So I think we need to continue to look at zoning as a way to get what you want. But I think ultimately the market has to decide what happens. You can do all the zoning you want, but if the market doesn't come, then it doesn't come. Thank you.
And the same question for Mahler. What is your vision for York Village, Short Sands, and other key commercial areas over the next decade?
I don't have a vision. But one of the things I think is interesting about our town is we do have these distinct neighborhoods. We have the Short Sands Village, we have Long Sands, we have our village here. We have our, and we have some very unique features of our town physically. We have Mount Angamaticus, we have the Noble Light. There's not a lot of towns that have a lighthouse, much less a magical one like we do. We have the oldest jail in perhaps the country, I don't know. We have our historic things. So we have a lot of character, and we have different zones. We have the harbor, we have the beach, we have the village, right? And I think each has grown organically to take on its own character. And like Robert said, people will come or they won't. It's not something that you can force, but you can encourage through land use planning, making all parts of our town an attractive place to live and do business.
This question is for Mahler. What role should the Select Board play in supporting the creation of affordable housing options for workers, seniors, and families?
Well, the Select Board really is sort of the high-level policy board, and we have formed a housing committee. Robert gets time to think about this one.
I'm taking notes.
And I think it's also a matter of you can't force it, but you can make it. You can hopefully do some things through zoning and perhaps incentives to make developers want to build projects here that fit in our town and also help with the affordable housing challenge. I wish I had a better answer because, once again, this is one of these challenges that is being faced by towns statewide. Public-private partnerships seem to be working in some towns. We took a look at the courthouse property as a possibility, and unfortunately, it just wasn't viable. It didn't pencil. But I think this is another issue that's top of mind. We're just going to keep at it, keep trying, and keep looking for opportunities to attract and help with this important issue.
Same question.
Yeah. So I think the community's done a fairly good job with workforce housing. That's we have a number of workforce projects that have happened out on Route 1. I think what the town can also do is we do own some land. We own parcels of land, such as the piece of land in the village where we were going to put the town hall at one point. It's zoned for pretty high density. And, there has been talk about maybe doing a charrette, doing some things to see if we could get creative about what type of housing would go there. So that's something we could do. We could also continue to collaborate with York Housing Authority. They are the local housing authority that's somewhat charged to do this type of work. I think what we are sort of missing is the affordable side, which I guess is the question, whether it's basic affordable or senior affordable. Those seem to be areas that we need more housing in. And so I think we need to continue to collaborate with the York Housing Authority and work with the land we have to make things more affordable. Thank you.
Mahler, this question is for you. What recent select board decision do you think was handled well? And what's one you would have approached differently?
I really wish we had these questions in advance. What did we handle well? I think, although it was extremely challenging and it kept a lot of us up at night and kept our stomachs churning, I think the vote about what to put on the capital plan was something that we did well. I know there was a lot of attention on the school capital asks, but I'm not sure that everyone realizes that the capital process had been going on for several months, and feeling the feedback in the community, the select board pulled a number of high-dollar capital projects off of the capital plan and decided not to put them on the ballot this year on the municipal side. One of them was a fire truck, a 1.6, 1.8, something like that, $1 million fire truck. One of them was another round of police vehicles this year, since we'd sort of already added to our fleet last year. There were some other smaller ones, and the Community Center Building Committee themselves decided more time was necessary to do a real thorough financial analysis and to plan better before putting that through the voters. So I think that whole process, I do think we handled well. And I don't have any time to talk about what we didn't. That works for me.
Well, you are a politician, right?
Robert, same question. What is one recent select board decision do you think was handled well? And what's one that you would have approached differently?
Yeah, so it's helpful to go second. I would I would agree with Marla. I think the decision to not move things to the ballot, the capital items, schools' capital items to the ballot, was an incredibly difficult decision. I think it was the right decision. We took some grief for that, but I do think it was the right thing to do. I don't think those items were fully vetted. And so I think we did a good job with that. And you talked about another question about affordability. Well, I mean, that was one way we sort of looked at affordability. I think one of the things we could have handled better, and this is over the last couple of years, is the whole short-term rental issue. I think we put forward an item that didn't pass, that was too much. And then we've tried since then to figure out how we would move forward to deal with, both groups on that issue. And we're now getting data on what we have for short-term rentals in town. And I think with that, we'll be able to make some decisions moving forward. Thank you.
So now we'll move into the speed round. These should be
Lightning
some
round.
short questions, short answers, but they may take more than 30 seconds, so we will be more lenient on the time. First question goes to Mahler. What is your position on the York Revitalization Project? Would you support seeking additional taxpayer funding if needed to complete it?
Oh, this is a good one for it depends. I'm supportive of the project. I'm very hopeful. It's been a long, long time. I think it would be a good project. We don't yet know the numbers. We don't yet know if there's a shortfall, if so, how much. We don't know if what sources there might be to help fill the gap if there is one. And so I think it's premature to say whether I'd be supportive of going to the taxpayers for additional funding.
Great. Same question?
Yeah, so I'm very supportive of the project and have been for about 15 years. But as Marla said, it comes down to the number. I mean, how much are we going to be asked for to contribute more to make it all happen? And then I also think that at this point, since it's gone on so long with a project we gave to the state in 2017, that we really probably need to not revisit it, but show it to the citizens again, so they remember the project. Or if you're new to town, you can see the project, and then weigh in whether we want to go forward or not.
The town recently added paid parking in York Harbor to increase revenue. What other revenue-generating ideas would you support exploring? This goes to Robert first.
Well, I mean, I'd support any, if you've got some ideas, throw them out. I mean, I would support any sort of revenue ideas. I mean, one of the things that it helps with is that if there's revenue from other sources, then it lessens the impact on real estate taxes, which would be good. And if it's revenue sources like parking, which is discretionary, and you can decide to park or not, you can decide to get a parking pass or not. You can't decide to pay your property tax. Well, you can, but then you lose your property. So, I mean, so if we can find ways to do that, then I'm supportive of that, particularly if it lowers property taxes.
Same question.
Same answer. I do not have any ideas off the top of my head, but bring them on and let's consider them. To the extent that we can be creative, to the extent that we can identify sources that don't rob Peter to pay Paul, to the extent that there are things that are fair and make sense for this town, because every town has a unique profile. Yeah, we are open, absolutely. And we have a great budget committee to vet things as well. I want to put in a plug for our awesome budget committee.
This question is for Marla. Is the town of York doing enough to prepare for sea level rise, storm impacts, and coastal erosion?
I hope so. We have a climate action plan. We probably haven't been as aggressive in implementing it as we might have been, or as maybe we hoped to be when it was first adopted, 5 years ago now? Time flies. I don't know. I'm not up to date with the science. I hope so, and I hope it's something that, as the planning board is looking at zoning and their issues, that they're keeping that top of mind, and I believe they are.
Same question for Robert.
Yeah, I think that we probably need to do more with mitigation to mitigate, the impacts that certainly are coming. I think the seawall does that. It's a big project, but it helps sort of mitigate the impact. One of the benefits of the design of the seawall is that you can go up another step. So the state needs to allow us to do that. They don't right now. But if the sea level comes and we could go up another step in terms of the design to protect that part of the beach. Do we need to do more in the beach? Yeah, I'm sure we do. But I only have 15 more seconds, so I don't have time.
And we'll just go into a couple, hopefully yes or no, or yes and maybe a small explanation. Do you support using town funds to repair and reopen the cliff walk? This is for either candidate who wants to go first.
I will say yes, but again, with the caveat that I need to know the number. I'm a strong supporter, but numbers, make sense. Have to make sense.
We placed a capital item on the ballot for this May for $180,000 using town funds, using our fund balance for some preliminary work on the cliff path, and my preference vote was yes on that. So,
do you support the regulation of short-term rentals in town?
Either of it?
Either one, yep.
Depends.
I mean, I support getting the data to see how many we have and who they are, which is what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Do you support the proposed citizen petition that would create a revenue bond preference for self-supporting capital projects ordinance?
I support, I voted to put it on the ballot.
I support the process, I support a legal review, and I support the community having a discussion through it. My bias at this point is no.
And then the last question is, do you support moving forward with a community center, and how should the town approach funding and long-term operations?
I'll defer to Robert since he's on the Community Center Building Committee.
I support the concept of a community center, but I need to know cost, location, what's going to be included in the community center, and how that fundraising is going to go. There is a fundraising committee that's been set up, separate from the town, to try to raise funds. So hopefully they do well. But I think I need to know all those things before I could say a definitive yes. I mean, I need to know what it looks like.
That's a really big, it depends, and that's a really good example of why projects take a long time and take a lot of work. And with regards to the citizens petition, I think that the work that the Community Center Building Committee is doing is addressing, is exactly the work that petition is trying to mandate. And so it would be wonderful to have additional recreational facilities in town. There's a shortage of gym space in particular, and there's tension about people who want to recreate and not enough facilities. But we've got a lot more work to do before we nail down a plan that we're comfortable really opining on.
Well, thank you both.
We're done.
We now like to invite up the Budget Committee, Thomas Hedger, Courtney Munez, and Amanda Sedgwick.
We just found Elizabeth Bardwell's comment. Can I just read it really fast before we start?
Yes. Yep.
So I don't know. It was in the back of the room.
Okay, so they,
I guess speak up.
I'd just like to introduce Erin.
Hey, y'all, we made a little mistake, and we couldn't find Elizabeth Bardwell's comment that she sent in, but we have it now, so I would like to read it. So Elizabeth Bardwell is running for moderator. She says, "Good evening. I apologize for not being able to attend the candidate night, but I wanted to at least give you the opportunity to hear from me. I am running for town moderator. I am a fair-minded, detail-oriented, and community-focused individual who takes the responsibility of public service seriously. Having served as town moderator for the last 4 years, I bring experience, consistency, and a steady hand to every election. It is an honor to help ensure that elections in York are conducted in a manner that is unbiased, free, and accurate, and I'm committed to upholding the integrity of this process for all residents. I respectfully seek to continue serving our town in this role. Sincerely, Elizabeth Bardwell." And Elizabeth, if you're watching, forgive us for making that mistake, but there it is.
Okay. Now we'll get into the Budget Committee. Each candidate will be given a minute opening, minute opening statement, and we'll start with Thomas first.
Hi, my name is Tom Hedger, and we've lived here for close to 10 years, and recently I've become a little bit concerned about, the budget and the spending overall that the town of York has been engaging in. Our averages are running anywhere from 5 to 7% increases every year, and I'm not sure that everybody's income is actually keeping up with that either. So when we develop these budgets and we agree to pay this, the people are going to have to come up with their own levels of revenue personally to pay for that. When I ran my own business, I ran it for a number of years, probably 25 years. I took it through the 2008 recession. We lost about 50% of our revenue and had to make some hard decisions, but was able to navigate through that, kept all of my key employees in place. And by the time I lost, like I said, 50% of my revenue, but by the time I finally sold my interest in the business, we had about $7 million in the bank, had zero debt, and we were doing $62 million a year in revenue. So I'm hoping some of that experience might be available if I'm lucky enough to get elected, because I do think there's some tough decisions that we have to face.
Okay. Courtney?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Munoz. I'm the current vice chair of the Budget Committee, and I'm running for re-election this year. I'm proud of the work that we've started over the past 3 years to shift our focus just from immediate cost cutting to long-term strategic savings. And I'm sincerely hopeful to continue that work and keep giving back to our town. As a parent with 2 kids in school and a retired parent in town as well, I do understand the pressures and needs across a wide group, and I grew up here myself, so I have a long-standing love for this town. In my professional life, I'm a senior vice president of my company, which is a national financial services organization, and I manage complex budgets where saving isn't just about saying no, it's really about strategic redeployment. I've brought the same lens to the town. I believe we must be fiscally conservative to protect those in our community who cannot sustain rising costs. But the only way to do that is through collaboration and long-term planning. We need to invest in our schools, modernize our operations, and work together across the town and schools as one York to increase our efficiency and impact.
And Amanda?
Hi, I'm Amanda Sedgwick, and I'm running for re-election to the York Budget Committee. Over the past 3 budget seasons, I think we've made some real progress, strengthening coordination between boards, improving transparency around the budget process itself, and asking harder questions about the long-term impact of our decisions, not just looking at short-term costs. I've asked for creative, data-driven solutions, and the impact of rising costs on residents has always been a key consideration in my decision-making. One example is we worked really well with the school committee to create the policy addressing rising school fund balance, and that policy now automatically returns excess funds to taxpayers to offset the tax burden. And this year, that resulted in over $1 million in tax relief. So I bring a lot of experience to this role in addition to the past 3 years on the committee. I grew up here in York. I'm a parent with children in the school system. I'm a physician and a small business owner here in York. I'm also a data person. I don't make decisions based on how I feel or in the moment based on headlines, and I focus on results. And I believe in understanding the impact of decisions on taxpayers before putting my support behind them.
The first question will go out to Tom. How do you define the Budget Committee's role in shaping York's financial priorities, and how does that differ from the Select Board's role?
Well, I think from a budgetary standpoint, we got to look at all of our different cost centers, whether it's government, whether it's the Parks and Rec, whether it's the school, and all those different cost centers have their own little cost centers associated with that. So we really got to get granular, so to speak. We got to look at each and every one of those and start to push back a little bit, I think. We have to say, look, we can only tolerate so much, and we need to really work closer with each one of them and identify essential spending versus non-essential spending or discretionary spending, and really put a little bit more pressure on them to say, is this really a need or is this a want? Looking at the 5-year plan, there's a variety of different issues and a variety of different spending plans for things that I think people really want and don't necessarily need. I just want to make sure we have the funding and the budget available to fund the needs of the town, and that includes the schools. So we might have to pinch some pennies somewhere.
And same question for Courtney.
Yeah, the Budget Committee is really critical, I feel, in reviewing all of the costs. For anyone who sat through a season's worth of budget meetings, it is incredibly granular. And I think part of that is transparency and really going through all of the town and school departments to understand where all of those dollars are going. I think a role that in the last couple of years that we've really tried to shift the Budget Committee towards is as a thought partner and a strategic collaborator with the schools, which has, I think, really benefited in a lot of ways to drive forward the reorganization, to drive many of the savings that have been started 3 years ago that we're seeing have real results in the budget this year. So, for example, there were 13 positions that over the last 3 years didn't need to be filled because of decisions made years ago and that partnership with the Budget Committee. And so it's those decisions that can create long-term savings. And in that example, it saves over $1.2 million per year. So I think a lot of it is in cost avoidance as well and really thinking about long-term ways to set ourselves up for better decisions.
And same question for Amanda.
Can you repeat the question?
Yep. How do you define the Budget Committee's role in shaping York's financial priorities, and how does that differ from the Select Board's role?
So I think the Budget Committee has a really unique position because we get to sort of see the whole picture. We see and the select board does as well, but I think we work directly with the schools for half of our time and the town for half of our time, and we have to get into the details with all of these, with all of the budgets. So we just directly work with everybody, and that's just a unique perspective because it really allows us, I think, to pick up on things that may or may not be happening in coordination. And like Courtney said, the long-term plans, like these things, I've learned this, over 3 years of being on the budget committee, it takes time to learn these processes and it takes time to put together these plans. It's not just going to be like in that budget season itself. It really, the decisions you make in 1 year affect, the next year and 5 years out, right? And so I think that we're able to ask those questions directly to all the people, and I think we may need to do a better job of coordinating with the select board, actually, so that we can help our level of communication get to them as well.
The next question is for Courtney. Courtney, what approach do you support for consolidating York Schools buildings, and what level of investment do you believe is appropriate?
I'm a big supporter of the school reorganization, and I think a lot of great work has gone into that. And much of that work did start through some conversations that the Budget Committee really helped in pushing that discussion forward. We don't have firm numbers yet. We certainly did have all of the proposals for York High School, which were on the capital plan late in the season this year, which our select board candidates can reference before. So I think we have an idea of what the high school is going to require. We don't know what the middle school is going to require yet, so it's too early to tell. But I think overall, the direction of bringing our school footprint and our very aging school buildings down from 4 schools to 2 is the right way to go, and doing that in a thoughtful way so that ultimately we can redeploy the capital that we're spending and the money that we're spending on maintaining these aging buildings and concentrate that into 2 more upgraded buildings with better facilities, and also enabling our educators to work out of single buildings. It gives us a lot more flexibility with academics to continue to drive up the results and the performance. So I think directionally, I approve that. There's a lot more information that I want as well, and we learned a lot, I think, through the communication and the timing of the process this year. So there's a lot more to learn to go, but directionally, I am a big supporter of the project.
Same question for Amanda.
I am also a big supporter of the project after looking at, the many, many hours of work and collaboration that went into putting that together. I was really concerned looking at the numbers because I was concerned that waiting and doing nothing at this time would end up costing us like significant more money. So I really am happy that they put together the numbers for all of these different plans. I think they really did look at it carefully, and I would be in support of whatever is the least expensive for us in the long run, to be honest. I think the plans that they put together really highlighted that we are going to spend a lot of money on repairing schools that are back from when Courtney and I were in high school and way before that. So there's just a lot of maintenance that's going to go into that, and those are going to be surprise costs. They're going to be stuff that we're not always able to plan for, and I would much prefer to have a thorough, thought through, so we know what to expect and plan for with the schools, and we can also improve the facilities, address the decreasing enrollment numbers, and just ultimately we may end up with 2 extra buildings that I'm hoping we can coordinate and do something with that will benefit the tax relief as well.
And the same question for Tom.
Well, it's not to say that I'm against it, but I'm not sure we can afford it. The plans that were put forward previously were quite expensive and frankly would have a massive hit on the average taxpayer. While it was people were looking at only $600-700 per year, well, that's just for that. we've got a lot of other capital projects for the rest of the town that are needed. Yeah, I'm for it, but I'm not for the funding that was put forward. I think we really got to go back, and we've really got to push back, and we've got to make it very clear that we only have so much money available to spend. And we got to look at what the needs are of the school versus the wants. You know, if you want to really rebuild the infield of one of the baseball fields, that's great, but maybe we should put that back. Maybe we should be looking at more critical things and see if we can't be a little bit more creative and ask them to come back with something more aggressive. I mean, we want what's best for the school, but at the same time, I don't want to be out of line here, but at the same time, I don't want to be looking at things that say we should be building a pickleball court out on Bog Road for $400,000. And those are wants. I'd rather take that money and direct it towards the school because the school has needs, and we do have to address those needs. Right now, the school has a 5-year capital plan of close to $19 million. So we're going to be giving them $4 million for capital expenditures. Maybe we could look at that and see if we can cut that back. But I really would like to push back very hard on the overall development program and the development project. Because if we keep spending so much money, eventually I think our enrollment's going to go down even further because people aren't going to be able to raise their kids here.
The next question is for Amanda. York residents consistently cite rising taxes as a concern. What strategies would you support to manage tax pressure without undermining essential services?
I think it's just really important to acknowledge that there's a lot of people saying that they can't afford to live in town or that they're worried that they won't be able to afford to live in town. I think the role of the budget committee is not just to reduce spending, but it's really to make decisions that are financially responsible over time. I think I've really focused on asking these questions, as Tom said, to try to really push back on what's going to be the least expensive thing. And I think the biggest hurdle has been communication around that. There's a lot of numbers that are thrown out and they sort of get headlines and then people grab onto that. And I really want to focus on actually communicating correct numbers and really what's going to be happening, because I'm concerned that, people may vote for something not knowing that if that gets voted down, that they would be spending more money unintentionally. So I think that's a really important piece to pay attention to the long-term spending so that we can not end up inadvertently overspending.
Same question for Tom.
As far as tax relief?
Yes. So what strategies would you support to manage tax pressure without undermining essential services?
Well, I think, again, it goes back to looking at the different cost centers that we have here, whether it's administration, public safety, public works, parks and rec, community services, and also, our long-term debt, because our debt service has gone up. This year, 2027, they're looking at a 7.6% increase in the budget. And they put these projected revenues in there, so that's a concern. And I only printed a few pages off, but it's 35 pages of the 5-year capital expenditure plan that we have online at the Town of York. I think we really got to look at everything in there. There does seem to be, in just about every department, I can't help but believe if we look at each thing and get granular and start trying to really prioritize what we really need versus what we really want. And of course, there are departments in there that have said it's a low priority, items that are a low priority and a high priority. We've got to I really think we're going to have to rein in that spending and see if we can't keep it more in line with inflation rather than above and beyond that. It's a huge fund that's being paid by the residents and of course the non-residents. Probably 30% of our budget is being covered by non-residents, people that don't even live here, but are gracious enough to pay their bills, thank you, and we appreciate that. But we don't want to drive that investment away either. So I think we just have to look at things in a very detailed manner from each and every one of the cost centers.
Same question for Courtney.
Sure. I think there's a lot that we can do, but they're not easy. So one of the biggest drivers to the increasing budgets is really around contracted increases. And that can be whether it's union contracts, whether it's negotiated contracts. Those are outside the purview of the budget committee. And so once they are set, we don't have an option to do that. So I actually think that partnering well in advance with schools and with the town to be really thoughtful about how we negotiate contracts and set ourselves up for success is going to be really critical going forward. I certainly think, we talked about it before, but cost avoidance is a major one. Strategies like the fund balance strategy and how we manage that and return funds to the taxpayers that are not needed to be kept in fund balance. There's always a required amount. That's really important as a town and as a school to have adequate capital. But any excess should be returned to the taxpayer. We have a lot of great ideas, I think, around revenue sources, and we're just beginning to explore those. And that's another area where we're having conversations on both the school and the town side to really drive that. One example on the schools is we have real centers of excellence and some great talent where, our food services actually helped out Kittery and they paid us for that service. So there's lots of ideas there. And then be more efficient, even just within our own town. There are contracts, for example, where we had 3 years ago, multiple contracts for different kind of PR and marketing services. Well, we collapsed all those together, and I think it was, almost a 6-figure savings with better support. So all of those areas are ideas that we're already talking about and things that I look forward to pushing forward.
This question is for Tom. Tom, what's one area of the town budget you believe deserves a deeper scrutiny or restructuring?
Well, definitely the school needs some scrutiny, but at the same, from a standpoint of what they need versus what they want. And at the same time, some of the spending that we're doing from a Parks and Rec department, well, all of them do. I don't want to just outline a single area. I think every single one of them requires scrutiny because every single one of them needs to pitch in and do what they can in order to reduce the burden on the budget. Again, the school is 60% of our budget. That's you can't ignore the elephant in the room when you're talking about your budget. So that definitely deserves a huge amount of scrutiny. Parks and Rec is another one that's fairly large, but that's important for the town as a whole. We all benefit from that. It's just, and I know, but I don't want to pick on the schools, but it's a big portion of the budget, and it's something we have to face. And I think if we ask the other departments and the other cost centers to maybe step up, maybe we can allocate more money for the schools.
Amanda?
So I would agree with scrutinizing a lot of the situations where we can bring in more revenue. I think we looked really hard at Parks and Rec this year, and I think by the time we end up looking at it in the budget season, it's a little bit late for things to be changed for next year's budget, but I would really like to have earlier conversations with some of these departments that can bring in revenue, because I think there are a lot of options, especially with Parks and Rec. They're just probably the one with the most options for revenue. But any other places that we can bring in revenue as well and really plan ahead for that and try to bring in more money and also reducing spending. But I think we've been not looking at revenue for quite a long time. I think that's something that deserves a lot more attention.
And same question for Courtney?
Yeah. Similar. I'm very passionate about looking for ways to bring in revenue, but I'm also very sensitive to we cannot look at revenue sources that are always on the backs of our town and taxpayers, because that's essentially another form of a tax. So I think there have to be some really creative ways to look at that. I do agree. I'm a big believer in Parks and Rec, but I think there's a lot of opportunities for improvement and revenue generation, as well as some cost structures there. So that's an area. And again, I'm a a big supporter. I used to work for York Parks and Rec many years ago. But I think that's going to be a big discussion going forward. And also contract alignment. You know, we've got a lot of different vendors and a lot of services throughout all of our different town departments and our schools. And I think there's just a lot that goes on in kind of contract negotiations that we don't have really full visibility into. And so I have no doubt that there's dollars to find there as we continue to learn more and ask more questions.
Now we'll enter our speed round of questions. So shorter answers, and so we don't have to go the full 60 seconds, but feel what you need to answer. First question goes to Courtney. When evaluating a budget, what matters more to you, the bottom line tax impact or the long-term value of investment?
Both. I can't answer that one. Yeah, both. I think they're both critically important, and I think it's something they have to look at on both sides.
Okay. Amanda?
I think I value the long term a little bit more because it gives a bigger picture. Like you have to look at what was last year's, what is next year's going to be, like the surrounding years. So you're not just looking at that single year. It has a lot to do with what's happening around that and then the future.
Tom?
Yeah, it depends, I guess, what you mean by value. If we're talking monetary value, I think that should definitely be considered. But at the same time, we do want to, we don't want to just live in a cocoon and everybody live in a bubble here. We do want to provide things to the town that the people really want. So I think it's a blend of both.
The next question would be for Amanda. What specific skills or areas of expertise would you bring to the committee?
I think I bring a interesting view as a business owner and as a physician. It's really important to me to meet the needs of the people in the town. I see a lot of people struggling with their own costs and like balancing increasing costs of health insurance and all those things. I really do want, it really helps me have a good view of what's really going on.
Courtney?
Yeah, I've spent 25 years in financial services and as a certified financial planner. I have a really deep level of expertise in budgets and financial planning. And I also think that I have a unique perspective in being able to really ask questions and work to bring people together. That's something that I value tremendously is actually digging into the hard conversations and trying to bring more people to the table to come up with creative solutions, which are oftentimes the more difficult discussions to drive.
And Tom?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, when I ran my business, there's a lot of hard decision-making that has to be done. You have to look at things in a lot of detail, and you got to be willing to say no to certain things and push back on certain things. And I think if we can do that, we can deliver. Let's face it, every time we go to the ballot, the people of York are fantastic. They vote yes on everything. They say yes to all of our spending. So I think as a member of the Budget Committee, I think we really have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we're delivering the best possible deal we can for each one of these things that are on the budget. And I would like to use my experience running my business and overall life experience to bring that to bear.
And this question is for Tom. So is York's tax burden too high, too low, or just about right?
The tax burden is completely determined by the budget. I would encourage anybody that hasn't looked at Luke Vigu, I think I pronounced his name correctly, to look at his short 7-minute video. It's very explicit. It really doesn't matter what your valuations are. It matters what we spend. If we spend $0, you're going to have zero tax. So it's really relative to what we spend. So when each and every person goes to the ballot box and says, I agree to spend this, you're now contractually obligated to pay for that. And that's going to result in how you're taxed. So it's really, it's all about spending.
Same question, Courtney?
Could you repeat the question?
Yep. Is York's tax burden too high, too low, or just about right?
I'm most concerned about the rate of increase. I don't think that we are a town that has overspent for a long time. I think, in fact, in some ways, we have underinvested in some of our infrastructure. So I don't think that the current tax burden is wildly out of line in either direction, but I am concerned about the rate of increase looking at, some of the forecasts that we're looking at.
Same question for Amanda.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily about whether we are spending too much or too little. I think it's how we're spending the money. I think when we look at surrounding towns, that York is actually doing a pretty good job with that. And we still want to be able to attract people to our town to come move here and spend money here in the summer and all that. And we need to maintain a level of functioning and building new things and having things that make people want to come live here.
This question is for Courtney. Do you support funding for a future community center?
Certainly depends on the number, but yes, I do believe that a community center is an important kind of cornerstone of any community. But I think we would have to be really careful with what the dollars are, and a lot of that depends on the school reorganization and how much we need to invest there.
Same question for Tom.
No, I don't. I don't think we can afford it right now. I support it if somebody wants to step up and privately fund it. I think it'd be great. But no, I don't think we can do it right now, not at this point in time. I think we've got more prudent issues that need to be addressed.
And Amanda?
I do support looking further into how we would do that, because I think I've heard from the town, from so many people in town, that this is a big, is really important to them. And I would like to see, it allows us, I think, an opportunity to get really creative with some revenue streams that we may not have if we don't, like the community center is unique in that way. Bringing other towns in to actually have them pay for services there, bring other people in to pay for services there. Like, I think that it supports some of these ideas that we've been throwing around. It would be a really good thing to see get down to just the really specific pieces of how that might work, so we could offset a large amount of the cost.
This question is for Tom. Tom, do you support using town funds to repair and reopen the Cliff Walk?
Yes, I do, because I think that's one of the attractive features that York has to offer. As I mentioned previously, we have a lot of non-residents that have second homes here, and they pay a significant amount in taxes. And I think that's one way of saying, yeah, we want to take care of the town of York. We want the investment here. We want people to enjoy it. And I think we can enjoy it as a town, but people that come to visit will enjoy it as well. It's been there for a long time, and I think it's worth repairing.
Amanda?
I also think it's worth repairing. That's one of those places that I think we might actually try to find someone that might want to donate to do that, because there's a lot of people that care about that. And it might be another way to get money besides taxpayers paying for it.
And Courtney?
Yes, at the reduced amount that was put on the ballot, my preference vote was yes, and I was really appreciative of the work to get that down. I was very hesitant when it was upwards of $1 million, and the conversations were starting very high. So,
And the last question, and this will go to Courtney. What percentage do you think is reasonable for a yearly budget increase? And what would you do to hold it at that or below that level?
There's not a perfect number in mind because it's all dependent on the economy and inflation and all of these factors. I think it's important to have a guideline, but I think a cap can be dangerous, again, because the cycles of things like our contract negotiations, which we don't have any control to say no, right, once we're committed to those increases, go off cycle. So I think it's just really important that we actually look forward and then figure out 3 years from now, how do we set ourselves up 3 years, 5 years, and beyond, so that we are bringing down the rate of increases.
Same question for Tom.
Looking at our historical increases in the budget and what do we have, $57 million planned for the next 5 years, which is working out to, $11.5 million a year. I think we really need to rein that in from a percentage standpoint. Be nice if it could mimic something close to CPI, which is what now, 3.3%. Yeah, I mean, we should have a target. If we don't get there, maybe it'll be a little bit higher, but I think we should push back, and I think there's spending and money there that would allow us at least to push for that goal. I think it's a good idea to have a goal and keep it down between that 3% and 4% per year.
And Amanda?
I have such a hard time with this because I think it's really impossible to give a number. I really do. I know that a lot of people want that, and there's a lot of pressure to give a number. Earlier on the budget committee, we've tried to do that. I don't think it's worked well. And I also think, as Courtney said, or somebody said, it's a little bit dangerous to do that. I don't think it allows for flexibility. What I would love to be able to do is predict a number. So if we say, like, we're going to do this year to keep next year's percentage at this percentage because we can foresee some of the things happening, it would be really helpful to do that, because I think then we could make the choice to spend a little more one year, a little less one year, and know what it would be the next year. The real fear is the unpredictability of that. And some of these costs with maintenance of these really old buildings, the schools as an example, like that could just be astronomical, and then we're looking at a really high increase.
We'd like to give each candidate a 1-minute closing statement, starting with Tom.
I guess I'm just overall concerned. I think, like I said, the people of the town of York are very gracious. We vote yes on all the budgets that are put forward, and that has an impact. I don't know if people equate that when they're at the ballot box. So, it is a large concern there. I think maybe we do need be a little bit more creative, and we need to start looking at these cost centers, and we need to start pushing back a little bit and getting them to prioritize wants over needs, or essential spending, non-essential spending. And, from that standpoint, from a budgeting standpoint, we might even want to be creative and tell them this is the amount of money you're going to get. Last year you spent 10 million, this year you get 10.5. Unless there's something extreme, if something comes up, obviously we have to be in a position to address that. But I think we need to be in a position where we can tell these different cost centers that, look, this is what you spent last year. That's how it's done in business. We can really only afford to do just so much.
Courtney?
Yeah, as we wrap up tonight, I wanted to return to why I choose to serve. I believe that being a good steward of York's budget means looking at the whole picture, not just for today, but for the next 20 years. My approach is really built on 3 things: transparency, collaboration, and long-term planning. I don't believe in quick fixes or magic bullets. I really believe in the hard work of finding structural efficiencies like the school consolidation efforts that allow us to protect our taxpayers while still investing in the services that make York home. I want my children and everybody else's to grow up in a town that is financially sound and community focused. I have the professional background and the experience to ensure that we're making data-driven decisions that reflect our shared values. I believe in a vision of York that is beautiful and well kept, preserves the heart of our community and culture, and invests in our future. I would be honored to earn your vote to continue this work. So thank you, and thank you to the committee for organizing tonight. And I know we'll see everybody here at the polls on the 16th.
Amanda?
I believe in the type of spending we should support is smart and proactive, where we can anticipate the needs instead of being forced to react to them, because that approach leads to more predictable costs for taxpayers and allows our departments to plan ahead and manage resources more effectively. I also am really focused on how boards work together. Strong collaborative decision-making is essential if we want to move forward in a really thoughtful and unified way as a town. I'm running again because I don't think the work is finished, and because I believe that steady, collaborative, and thoughtful leadership really matters. Over the past 3 years, I've developed a deep understanding of the budget process, and it's something that truly takes time to learn. That experience allows me to contribute meaningfully and make well-informed decisions without a learning curve. My priority has been long-term decision-making and improving communication and collaboration, because good budgeting is not just about numbers, but it's about coordination of the budgets, transparency, and trust. I approach this role with a long-term perspective, professional accountability, and a deep commitment to York, and I would be honored to have your support.
Thank you all. We'd next like to invite up the candidates for school committee, Sean Bradburn and Michael Bodern.
Sorry, Sean. Put you back on the schools. Great job.
How are you?
We never did get a chance to come out swinging. No kidding, we gotta follow that. Begging for signatures.
We'd like to give each candidate an opening statement, and we'll start first with Michael.
Okay, well, don't start the timer till I get my special electronic device. Probably, you know, I'm so proud, nearly the oldest person in the room, gonna hopefully.
We can't hear you in the back, sorry.
It's fine, you gotta wait a minute, I gotta get my technology set up, and if it doesn't work, then I will have to use paper. Defeated by technology again? All right, 1, 2, 3, go. Public schools are really the heart of any community. It is where young people learn to think for themselves, to make friends, and to nurture skills and talents. Schools provide opportunities for citizens to gather, to recreate, and be entertained. I bring over 30 years of experience in public education as a school counselor at all grade levels, and 20 years as a community volunteer with the York Land Trust, with the Friends of Mount Agamenticus, and the York's Parks and Recreation Board, where I currently serve as the chair. I understand how to work with people, how to encourage dialogue, and how to cooperate to solve problems. I love this town. I love hiking the trails, walking the beaches, gardening, raising chickens, swimming, canoeing, and skating in Situate Pond. I have the time, the experience, and I hope the wisdom to be an effective member of the York School Committee. Thank you.
Next, Sean.
Thanks for having me. My name is Sean Bradburn. I'm running for a school committee. A friend of mine put the bug in my ear not too long ago that I might be good for this position. I grew up in town. I'm an alumni of the school. I've coached there since 2007, though I'm not currently a coach anymore because I'm the head coach of the Hammerhead wrestling team in town, so that takes away from that. I coach York youth football and Little League baseball, and it takes a lot of time. It's one of my favorite things to do as a way to give back to the community and be a positive influence for the kids that I get to work with. I worked for a short time as an ed tech at the school as well. And I had a parent that was a teacher there for a long time, so I've been involved in York schools since before I lived in York. And this is my opportunity to give back to the community in my own way. Thank you.
Okay. We'll start with the questions. The first question is for Michael. Michael, what approach do you support for consolidating York schools buildings, and what level of investment do you believe is appropriate?
Well, the level of investment is probably someone else's ballywick, because the numbers may escape me. I do think that consolidating the buildings for the good of the students and the community should be done. And I think we need to approach that in a cooperative, collaborative manner. And that's about all I would say about that.
Sean, same question?
Yeah. The consolidation of the schools is, I feel, very important. It's one of the reasons I'm up here. I am supportive of 3 schools. I'm not as supportive of 2, on the main reason of I just don't see how 7th and 8th graders can be up at the high school. I don't like that. And I think they need a chance to be leaders at the middle school level before they, once again, are at the bottom of the totem pole when they hit the high school. And if there were sixth graders going up into that, they would never get that opportunity to really be leaders. They're just not ready for it yet. I'm concerned about the numbers that I saw for the proposals. I think there is maybe a few too many wants in that. But I'm very open to conversations. I feel like I need to be a little more involved with maybe some common sense ideas and just things that I have heard through the grapevine about what is going to happen with the consolidation. And one of the things that actually perked my ears up the most and probably made me finally say, yes, I'm going to do this was potentially moving of the wrestling room and turning that into an office. And then, but building another wrestling room so there would still be one. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm sure that maybe I heard it wrong, but there's got to be smarter ways to do things. We don't need to rebuild once we already have something. Thank you.
Okay, this first question is for Sean. Sean, do you support the Select Board's decision to reduce the school department's 2026 capital request from $27 million to $3.9 million? Why or why not?
That seems like a big cut to me. I feel like one of the things that has kind of irked me over the years is we have kicked the can down the road on things that do need to happen with the schools. And now we're in a position where we just spent a lot of money on this great new field complex. Well, that probably needed to happen 15 years ago and not 10 years ago, because that was the same field that I played on. It was pretty sure the same field my uncle coached on back in the 80s, and that needed to be done a long time ago. And we're kind of in this spot where now we also need these fixes to the school, but we just did this fix that we needed 10 years ago, and we're running into this wall of needs. And we do have to make some hard decisions. Going from 27 down to 3 might be a little too hard, but I feel like there's going to be a happy medium somewhere, and we need to be objective and open to those conversations of what is truly a need, what is kicking the can down the road again, because we can't afford to just continue to do this.
Same question for Michael.
Okay, would you please repeat
Yep.
it very slowly so I can hear the
I will
numbers,
do it.
although I might ignore them.
Do you support the Select Board's decision to reduce the school department's 2026 capital request from $27 million to $3.9 million? Why or why not?
Yes, I do, because I think it requires more thought than seems to have gone into it. However, I would really like to say that when I worked in a regional school system in Vermont, we had a school system with 7th and 8th grade students in one wing of the building, grades 9, 10, 11, and 12 in another wing of the building. Those buildings were joined by the cafeteria, all the school offices and specialty classrooms, and there was a third wing for the gymnasium and the locker rooms and access to the outside field systems. So I've worked in a school system where the 7th and 8th graders were housed with the rest of the population, but in a way where they had their own space and their own spaces, and their own leadership roles, and yet the system benefited from, they didn't have to have separate buses for one class, and they got to go to the same unit. I just thought that's an important thing for me to say in terms of the kind of things I bring to this, kind of things about evaluating numbers or spreadsheets and what things should cost. I would rely on my special economic and financial advisors.
Okay, the next question is for Michael. York school budgets continues to face rising costs. How should the district balance tax impacts while maintaining the high-quality programs that it currently has?
Well, I really think that there will be increases in costs, but I think if the leaders in the town the people serving on committees can really think of doing this in a cooperative fashion, working together. So often I hear this sense of, well, there's the school committee and they're asking for money and budget this way, and there's the town, and it almost seems like there's friction or built-in uncooperation between them. I think we all ought to work together in this incredible town where, you know, I drive around here and say, I can't believe I live here. I didn't have to get on a plane. I didn't have to make a reservation. I can just go out my door and either go up the mountain or go to the beach. Or I can drive by the harbor and see the boats and say, my God, it's a scenic place. How did I manage to get here? That's another story, but I'll be glad to tell it if anybody wants me to.
Same question?
Just repeat that one more time.
Yes. York school budget continues to face rising costs. How should the district balance tax impacts with maintaining the high-quality programs that it currently has?
You know, I think one of the great things that they've been doing recently, and I've yet to take a tour myself because I'm at the school a lot, is getting the town into the school and seeing the facilities that they currently operate with and trying to help them understand what the true needs are versus what the wants are. Like I said, we have kicked the can down the road a lot on the school, I feel. And some of those needs they're here. It's too late. They're here. We need to get them done. At the same time, I guarantee there's some things in there that are still wants in the plannings. And I feel like it's important to let the people of the town understand that these kids they're going through the school system and they're getting the best out of all these teachers. They're getting the best out of these facilities, but these facilities aren't necessarily operating at 100% anymore. So even though they're getting the best out of them, they're still only getting 70%. I feel like the school that I went to does a great job as far as getting the most out of what they have to work with, but we're just leaving them with what they have to work with rather than giving them exactly what they need. And some of those things, it's time. It's time to get them done. Hopefully as financially responsibly as we can.
This question is for Sean. What recent school committee decision do you think was handled well, and what's one you would have approached differently?
Oh, man. You know, I don't know about something I would have approached differently as far as, you know, maybe I should have been more involved in some of those meetings to be able to comment on that. I was a fan of the new field and facilities that we eventually decided to put in. That field has been around forever. The grass didn't grow anymore. It became borderline an injury risk if there was any rain whatsoever, and the field was basically unplayable. So that was one of those things that, despite the price tag that came with it, I was pumped for that. I was pumped for my kids when they eventually get to the high school to have that facility to use and to learn on and to play on and to, you know, hopefully excel on. And, you know, I'm pretty sure one of the last schools in the entire state to get an upgrade like that at their facility. And for the sports programs that we put through here, I think that was long overdue. So sometimes I think it's just time. So thank you.
Same question for Michael is what recent school committee decision do you think was handled well, and what's one you would have approached differently?
I would say that every decision the school committee has made has been done well, because otherwise we would hear about it and read about it in the papers and people would be all upset, and then we'd know what they had done poorly. If there's something I have been concerned about, I would say, I guess we'll call it the pickleball fiasco or something. But I am concerned about the way the school committee approached the community's use of facilities that are at or adjacent to the school, and I think that that could have been handled better. I'm not sure how, but I wasn't on the school committee at the time, so maybe I could have contributed something. But listening to people and being cooperative and understanding that it isn't just the schools and the community, but that we are all the community, and the kids in the school are going to be the community. And we shouldn't forget that.
This question is for Michael. Michael, what's one academic area where you believe York is underperforming?
Since retiring from public education in 2009, except for doing a couple of stints where I replaced some women who are teachers who are off having babies, I haven't thought much about that. I've been happy to be retired in York for many reasons. So I don't think I'm in a good position to address that. I'm running for this, I'm running as a write-in because apparently it was impossible to find someone who wanted to fill that seat. And I did feel, if that's too important a seat to remain vacant. So that's why I'm running. Clearly, I'm going to pay closer attention to what's happening within the school systems, should I get enough write-in votes to get this seat. So thank you.
And the same question for Sean.
Yeah. So I served as an ed tech for a while at the school and had the opportunity to work with multiple teachers across all different programs there. And they really do some fantastic work. I think we've done a great job, trying to accommodate everybody with the Pathways program. I'm a math guy. I love the math department. But the thing that really I missed the most when I started there was that the shop was gone. I don't know why we ever got rid of the shop. Not every kid is a math kid, not every kid's an English kid, not every kid's a science kid, but there's plenty of kids that are great with their hands. And I feel like we took that resource away from them. I'd love to see more put into our arts programs in general. With fantastic music department, fantastic art department, and for any student that's outside of the norm of math, science, English, and this is how you move on. That's not true. There's a lot of arts opportunities out there for our kids in town, just as many as any sport. So I wish we still had the shop. I wish we still had that hands-on experience for the kids that was right for. As someone who lived in town, I never would have got into wrestling if it wasn't just what was available. There was nothing going on. I got into it, and it's been one of the best things that ever happened to me. I still coach it to this day, so that started in 5th grade. So.
Now we'll enter into the speed round of questions. We'll start with Sean. And the first question is, what's one area in the school budget you believe needs deeper scrutiny or rethinking?
I just really want to dive a lot deeper into the consolidation in general. I understand there'll be sticker shock, but I just feel like, for me personally, and I'm a pretty open book with my opinions, I want to know more, and I want to know why it is what it is. Why 2 schools and not 3? I'll have a conversation with anybody, but doesn't mean you'll change my mind. But I will have an open conversation with anybody on what's best for the town and for our students.
And same question?
When I read the instructions, I thought we were going to be giving one-word answers.
Sorry, I'm very wordy.
That's okay. I'm happy to have a few more answers to give. I think that the school consolidation is really an important thing to look at and to do research on and to learn more and have community discussions. I mean, during the time of the Village Revitalization Committee, we had a number of gatherings in this room where people talked about their ideas and their concepts. And the nice thing about that was that they not only shared their ideas, they weren't trying to pitch something, they were saying, I was in a situation, this is what I liked about something that happened, this is what I would like to see happen here. And I think working towards school consolidation that way is important. I also think that in terms of the fiscal responsibility or whatever, we need to think not just how much is it going to cost, but how much is it going to cost going forward, and are there ways of saving money going forward, even if the initial investment might be higher than the cheapest way to do it.
Well, here's some yes and no ones for you. So the first question is regarding the district cell phone policy that restricts or bans student use during the day. Do you support it or are you against it?
Me? That's my one word. I support it, but I wish I had more time to talk about it.
Okay. Sean?
Ban the cell phones in the schools. They're a problem. Keep them out of there. That's my one word.
And this is for Sean. Do you support the inclusion of transgender athletes in sports teams that align with their gender identity?
I don't know how you can ask that question as a one-word answer.
Right.
You could go on for a little bit.
That's really complex. When there's not another option, when there's no alternative sport, I'm not really opposed to it. If there's a boy that wanted to play field hockey, there's no male field hockey team. I'd love to encourage a club team or to find alternate routes. But when there's an option, I'm sorry, if there's a boys team and a girls team, you play on the boys team or you play on the girls team, and that's my one-word answer.
Okay. Michael?
Let's try this as quickly as I can. Gender dysphoria is much more complex than can be developed in a one-word answer here. And I think just like we had a huge struggle with homosexual marriage for ages and ages and ages, that has been resolved fairly well. Doesn't mean that everybody's happy with the resolution, but it's been resolved fairly well. And if we work on this issue in a reasonable way without huge emotionality about it, I think we can come up with a good answer. It'll take more than 15 seconds to get there.
This question is for Michael. What academic or extracurricular activity do you believe needs more attention or investment in the next 3 years?
Climate change, climate study, and understanding of what's in store for us, whether you believe or not. It's like, is gravity a theory, or if you hold something up and you let it go, does it fall? Yes, can you explain that? Yeah. We're going to be hammered, in many ways, and there's lots to be learned about that, and I think that would be good. Possibly also the incorporation of students in town governance in some way, in student input to what's going on here would be a good thing.
Same question?
Could you say that one more time?
Yep. What academic or extracurricular activity do you believe needs more attention or investment in the next 3 years?
Yeah, I really feel like those hands-on learning, things like Odyssey of the Mind, things like shop, art, alternate ways to get kids involved, that as much as I love sports, find ways to connect to the kids that don't love sports. Not everybody will be that 3-sport person or a travel team person, but they are creative and awesome and have their own ways to let that out. And I'd love to see stuff like that get a little more attention for after-school activities and ways for our students to express themselves.
And the last question is for Sean. Sean, how would you improve communication between the school committee and the community?
That's a really great question. You know, I don't really know. And maybe that's my own fault. I'm probably relying a little too much on social media to get my information, and then reaching out to sources after that. Maybe just a little more public outreach as far as when things are happening. I feel like it's not like we meet all the time, you know, so reminders that something's coming up soon, I guess.
Same question for Michael?
Well, here's a thought that went through my head. We've done it here. We've done it within this community and have done it at other school systems that I have worked at. But we could have a meeting. We could have a round table. We could gather a group of people together, you know, put the chairs in a circle and say, come on in, let's have a talk. We're not going to make any decisions. We want to hear from you. And I would do it in person. I would advertise it on social media, but I would say, let's do it in person, because on my limited contact with social media is it's too easy to send the zinger out, to be angry, to be hostile in ways that you really, almost no one in the community would respond that way if they were sitting in a room with the person or the people. So, you know, bring us together. We got this space, we have other space, and that'd be a good thing to do.
Okay, now we'd like to give each candidate 1 minute closing statement, and we'll start with Sean.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to what I have to say. I'm a pretty passionate person about everything I do. I care a lot about the town and the school and the students that we're putting through. I love giving back in ways that can help them be better people and represent our town in the best way possible as they move on to bigger and better things. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Max. Thank the committee and the citizens for showing up here. And I'm waving to you at television, but it's a 3-minute delay, so I can't see myself. That's okay. You know, and thank you for running. We had a lot in common, and I never met you before, but that's fine. I believe it is our responsibility to provide safe and shared spaces for students of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds in order to prepare them to be good citizens and give back to their community. I am aware that student enrollment, academic achievement, building upkeep, and financial stability are all important factors that contribute to a healthy school system and community. I will devote myself to careful and thoughtful consideration of all these factors. No doubt, as a new school committee member who never expected ever to be on a school committee in his entire life, I will have much to learn, but I am ready to start to work. And, you know, I encourage you to write me in as the write-in candidate on the ballot, and my name is Mike or Michael, M-O-D-E-R-N. Modern, spelled like Monard. That's another story. Thank you.
Thank you both. So that concludes the 2026 Candidate Nights Forum. I want to thank you all the candidates for their participation and their thoughtful responses. I'd also like to extend a special thanks to the York Public Library, Select Board Chair Todd Frederick, and the committee who organized the event. And as a reminder, voting day is Saturday, May 16th, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Thank you and good night.